All right. Per the usual, hitting the intro in a 3, 2, 1.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Jose here at the First Round by Podcast, accompanied by my boy, Mr. Soss.
What is going on, one and all? Welcome to yet another monumental episode. This is the first episode we've recorded since we did the interview with Demarius.
Dang, what was that, 2 weeks ago?
Was it 2 weeks ago or was it 3 weeks ago?
2 or 3 weeks ago, and then before that, it was like a month. But
Yeah.
in between that span, we have both been releasing a bunch of fantasy football videos.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in fantasy football, go check those videos out. We do some of our top sleepers, some of our top quarterbacks, etc., etc. Sauce, what have we got on the plate for today?
So, sticking with the whole fantasy football topic, we actually just decided to go ahead and do this. We pivoted. Have you ever seen Friends?
No.
God,
I mean, besides the one I'm looking at in the screen right
now. That's cute. Pivot for any fans of Friends out there. All right, so most of you guys are probably, if you're checking out our channel, then you are probably relatively aware of how to draft in fantasy football. However, both of us have been part of leagues in the past that people don't really understand how to draft in fantasy. So we're going to give you guys a few tips and tricks, not necessarily do's and don'ts, but this is kind of a, for lack of a better term, dummy's guide to fantasy football drafting. It's kind of a way to culminate everything that we've been talking about previously in previous weeks. And I'm excited about it because obviously, Jose, what's your favorite time of the year?
I was gonna say fantasy football year. I mean fantasy football year. Fantasy football season.
Yeah.
Football season. The fall time. It's the best time of the year.
It really is, because instead of it being 100 damn degrees outside, it's like nice and like 60, 65, maybe 70 if you want to get super hot.
I'll do a 70 with the light breeze.
Oh, and then all you have to do is on Saturdays turn on College Game Day. I'm actually going to be watching college football this year.
My guy, I'm proud of you.
I kind of have to for the podcast.
Yeah, so, it'll be good for you.
Exactly. But also Sundays are going to be filled with football, and it's literally right around the corner. So when we're recording this, I'm not sure when we're going to edit it, but when we're recording this is the night before the first game of the preseason.
Oh, that's right. I almost forgot about that.
Training camp is coming up. So with all that being said, a lot of times whenever it comes to fantasy football, if your league is smart, most drafts are going to be after the preseason. And Jose, why is it that we do it after the preseason?
So obviously, a lot of teams. Well, I wouldn't say obviously, but a lot of teams they like to use the preseason games as like what would you say, Sauce? Measuring sticks to see how good some of these rookies are. It gives some of the starters, just a few extra reps before the actual game. So it's good to kind of sit back and watch the preseason games to kind of evaluate some of the rookies that are coming onto the scene.
Exactly. Now that's a good point. That's one of the points that I was actually going to bring up, is that one of the biggest things that you can actually also do is, because for those of you who do not know, I'm pretty much treating this as like you barely watch football ever. Preseason is training camp, and a lot of these guys that are going to be competing in training camp and in these preseason games are actually vying for positions on the team. So there's a possibility that if somebody is going off and they are like a second or third string backup, if you are in a deeper league and you are having some issues with like injuries or something like that, or availability of players due to like suspension or whatever may have you, it's a good way to be able to kind of target some of those sleepers that other people might not know about. Because if you watch now, granted, preseason can sometimes be an absolute effing snoozer. Like, it is some of the worst ball that's being played just because everybody's trying to vie for a position and stuff. So anyway, I feel like that was a very long intro to what we were talking about, but we all know that I'm long-winded. So, all right. So basically what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be going over where certain positions should be drafted, like where you should target certain positions, because unlike the actual like NFL draft, despite what a lot of people might think, you do not draft a quarterback number one overall.
Or realistically in the first round. And a lot of people could
Yeah.
argue that, but honestly, you should not be drafting quarterback. I would say I would say at least up until the fourth round,
I
maybe fifth round.
my
It has to be somewhere in the middle,
that's my go-to is the fifth round. My
at
my go-to,
least.
because so with the quarterback position now, even if you have somebody that's a phenomenal dual threat like Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen or Anthony Richardson, remember top 5 quarterback.
Rip.
Ripperooskies. But even if you have somebody that is going to do that, now granted, now with the dual threat quarterbacks, that's whenever I can kind of justify maybe spending in the fourth round. But I feel like the sweet spot is the fifth round, and part of that too is because it also kind of depends on what the format of your league is. Our league is we just do one quarterback. I know.
Yeah, that's
Go ahead.
go ahead.
No, you.
No, you. No. So I think you were gonna say what I was gonna say. So there's some people that do, I think it's called like super flex
Yeah,
maybe.
super flex.
So that means they have two quarterbacks that you start. So if you're in a super flex league, I would say, yeah, you probably want to grab a quarterback or two pretty early, especially like you gotta see your rules because a lot of people adjust their point system, I should say. So in particular, my league, it's 6 points per passing touchdown. A lot of other leagues do only 4.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in a league where you get more points for passing touchdowns, you're gonna want to go big on your quarterbacks because obviously the potential to get more points.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now, I know I don't really think that there's a whole lot of like casual fantasy leagues that I've seen that do the superflex. That's actually pretty rare in my opinion. Whenever I'm looking through social media, it's weird too. Whenever you're looking on social media and it's around fantasy football time, all of a sudden they're listening because they literally will have all types of threads about like different trades and stuff that people asking for advice on different trades and stuff
Oh
like
yeah.
that. It's super weird. But yeah, so when it comes to quarterbacks, I would usually wait until fourth, maybe the fifth round or so. Like I said, my sweet spot is usually the fifth round. And for me, I usually like to reserve the first 4 rounds for the wide receivers and the running backs. And that's for my starting lineup, right? So, and in all honesty, it's weird because every year I've actually been kind of switching it up as to it also depends on who's available at that point, because I'm not going to sit there and draft a wide receiver if the pickings are thin for running back, you know.
Right.
So you kind of got to go with the flow of the draft.
So for me, I feel like personally, if you're like in a regular formatted fantasy football league, meaning one quarterback, two running back, two receiver, one flex, tight end, kicker, defense, uh, you gotta, and this is just my opinion, right? Everybody's gonna play and
Right.
do fantasy differently, but I think if you're like in a regular format, you gotta go kind of heavy on the running back because the running back pool isn't very deep.
No.
So once like your hard hitters are off the board, you're really kind of like down to some slim pickings. So I think it would be smart to go running back first,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then, well, it also just depends on freaking the talent. Who's, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
who's available?
Right. So it's kind of tricky, but definitely go running back first, and then receiver right after that, obviously.
Yeah. And I would definitely say that, and you can talk on this point too if you have anything to add. But one of the biggest things that I think is paramount for a fantasy team is you want to be able to have a premier or who's looked at as a premier player at the wide receiver position and the running back position. You need
Oh yeah.
at least one of each. It's not really good practice to like say you got 2 superstar running backs and then your wide receivers. The wide receiver that you're relying on the most is is looked at as a wide receiver too in fantasy. It's not going to work out very well. Whenever you
Right.
put all your eggs in that basket, it's just not going to work out very well.
Balance is probably the best thing that you can have for fantasy. That way, if and when you get someone that gets injured, one of the positions that gets injured the most is probably the running back position,
Oh
obviously right next
yeah.
to your favorite position.
Oh yeah.
So if you get one of those guys that goes down and you're pretty balanced on your roster from your starters down to your bench, you can use a lot of some of those other pieces as trade bait to bring on some more talent to your team.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's a great point too, because I know I think it was last year, I had Nick Chubb as one of my running backs, and I was super excited because I know that the Browns, they love to run the ball, and I was like, man, this is gonna be such a great pickup. And I think it was early in the season. I can't remember which week it was, but he went down super quick, and I actually ended up picking up. No, I drafted late. I drafted Mostert.
Mostert, yeah.
Yes. Everybody during the draft was, I wouldn't say necessarily shitting on me about it, but they were like, what in the world? And I'm like, at the time, we didn't know what Devon Achane was going to be able to do. And the only known quantity in that Miami offense whenever it came to running back was going to be Raheem Mostert. And so I was pretty happy about that. And if you haven't checked it out yet, definitely go and check out all the other videos in this series. That it won't take you but maybe an hour and a half if you are really like, if you don't have if you have ads on or something, then it'll take you about an hour and a half. But I would definitely go back and take a look at those, because there's a lot of really, really good information in those from both me and Jose over here. So, man, where was I going with that? Oh, that's right. So I was going to touch on real quick, whenever it comes to drafting rookies. Oh my goodness. So last year I actually got really, 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 really lucky in that I I drafted 2 rookies that produced well. But got to be, man, you have to have a filled out starting roster, in my opinion, to be able to justify taking a flyer on a rookie.
Well, you know what's crazy? I feel like ever since I started playing fantasy football, which was I believe in 2016,
Oh wow.
I don't think I remember drafting any rookies. Oh wait, no, Jahmyr Gibbs. I drafted him last year,
Was that the first rookie
but
you've ever drafted?
yes, actually it was.
Wow.
Where I'm going with this is like this rookie draft class. There's so much talent
Oh man.
everywhere. Quarterbacks, running backs, receivers. There's a bunch of rookies that I am probably going to be hopefully taking whenever it comes to draft day, and I'm going to probably
Really?
draft them with confidence if
Really?
if I get to that position. You know what I'm saying?
There are 2 rookies, 2 premier rookies that I would be comfortable with drafting right now. Do you know who those are?
Are you talking about Malik Neighbors
He's one of them.
and uh,
It's not
is it
hard.
running back or a receiver?
It's a receiver.
A receiver. Oh, Marvin
Yeah, Marvin
Jones.
Harrison.
Yeah, I said Marvin Jones.
Marvin Jones.
Marvin Jones.
What?
Ripper Rooskies.
You know who I am not actually super comfortable with?
Who's
Adunze.
that? A Dunze? It's gonna
I
be interesting.
I don't think he's
It's gonna
going to
be
do well
interesting.
his first year, because of each one of those guys. So if you haven't checked out yet, Hard Knocks with going over the New York Giants offseason, dude, you need to check it out too. It is phenomenal. If you consume football I can't even say football right now. If you consume football as much as we do, like you will really enjoy it. But they're already talking about, like, whenever they drafted Malik Neighbors over to the Giants. I know, spoiler alert if you haven't watched it yet, but they were planning on, like, they fully intend on him being the number 1 wide receiver for Daniel Jones over there.
Who Neighbors?
Neighbors. And then of course Marvin Harrison, he's going to be the number 1 wide receiver over there in Arizona.
Oh yeah, I'm excited for that one.
And
I'm
then,
really
but
excited
Roma
about that one.
Dunze, he's going to be competing with who else for
Keenan
touches?
Allen, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet.
DJ Moore,
What's
who
his name?
just got paid.
Just got paid a ridiculous amount of money.
Jeez, that's still unreal, but
I think I saw that he's the first receiver in NFL history to have his first 10 years
fully
guaranteed.
guaranteed. Yep, that's
Crazy.
impressive.
It is
So
impressive, but it's also crazy because, in my opinion, he's not even worth that money.
I agree. We both agree on that. Actually, we could touch on that for a second. I so earlier we were talking about our thoughts on DJ Moore, and I went and checked out his stats and everything. Granted, he's been pretty consistent since he's been in the league. He's had multiple 1,000 yard seasons and everything, but it's just barely cracking 1,000 yards, and
And if
especially
you think about it too, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but if you think about it too, there's what 16. There was 16. Now there's 17 games in a season.
yeah,
So that's a lot of games.
that's a lot of
So
games.
you better be cracking that much, like 1,000 yards.
Yeah,
You're an NFL receiver in a pass heavy
exactly,
league. You better crack 1,000 yards.
exactly. Yeah, no, that was what got me because pretty much from 2019 or 2020 on, the league has really been very pass centric, and so if you're only barely cracking 1,000, or I say barely cracking 1,000, he was cracking barely 1,100. Not a whole lot of touchdown. And then we looked at some of his stats from last year because we were joking about it. Flash in the pan.
Peruskis.
Ripperooski's indeed. But
Flash.
but he was very consistent with like 50 and 60 yard games, but he would get he would have like two or three huge games that would get you believing that he was about to go off, and then of course he really didn't. But you know what? At the end of the day, he got his bag. He's still relatively young, so that's going to give Caleb Williams another target out there. But I don't trust the Dunze. I that would be one of the guys that I would take a late round flyer on.
Interesting take there, saucy boy.
Yeah, you think so? I just don't think that I don't. It's really hard whenever you have like, for one, you're trying to trust a rookie quarterback. For one, I mean, from what I've seen, he looked good in camp so far, which is good. But then you already have a rookie wide receiver that it's really hard for them to get touches in the first place because they're still learning a new system, stuff like that. DJ Moore already knows the system. Keenan Allen, he's a vet who's produced before. So you've got two big time producers at wide receiver in front of him. He's going to be at minimum the third look. So I don't know. I can't trust it. There's too many variables for me.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't draft him ahead of like people like Marvin Jones, Malik Neighbors. Honestly, maybe
You
not
mean
even
Marvin
like
Harrison?
Xavier Worthy. What did I say? Did I say
Marvin
Marvin
Jones
Jones again? What is wrong with me? Kids, don't do liquor or beer or whatever.
Don't do liquor.
But yeah, I wouldn't draft him over Harrison
Oh
or even
no.
like Xavier Worthy. I'd take before him for sure.
Yeah, no, that's not a bad idea. All right, so where are you drafting your first wide receiver? Say you have one of the top 5 picks in the draft, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I actually just put out a video about if you have the first pick, so go check that out. So we'll say that you have one of the first 5 picks, right? Who are you drafting first? Are you drafting a wide receiver or are you drafting a running back?
Well, it depends what position I'm in. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
I feel.
let's start out at 5 and then go down, I guess.
Wait, wouldn't it make more sense to do 1 through 5 first?
Sure, why not? I don't know.
Okay. Luckily for you, I got a cheat sheet. My number one,
I do
I
too.
would go. No question. I mean, it's a no-brainer for me. But like you said in your other video, you can possibly rotate 5 different people. I'm gonna go Christian McCaffrey.
Seen that come.
Number 2, honestly, as generic as it might sound, I'd probably do CD Lamb. Number 3, I'd probably do Tyreek. Number
Okay.
4, I probably
Ooh.
Bijan. And
Oh,
then
so you got Bijan over Brees?
yeah, and then number 5, I might get a lot of hate for this one too. I'll probably do Amon-Ra St. Brown.
think that's a fair take.
Yeah,
Amon Ra,
I'm really
I think he's going to be awesome this year.
I'm really high on Amaral this year. Honestly, bro, like that's who I want in my drafts. Like besides Christian McCaffrey, like Amaral St. Brown, right next to Tyreek Hill is who I'm looking at.
Ooh, okay. Why is it that you want Tyreek?
Dude, you know I'm all about consistency. Tyreek Hill has
He got injured last
consistently
year,
produced. Right, right, but I don't know, man. He's just
and that offense.
I like Tyreek, man. He's just an undeniable
I'm
player.
just trying to play devil's advocate.
Not like consistency. Like you saw what he did with Mahomes. You seen what he did with Tua. Like we've seen what he's done with the current offense that he has now.
Oh
Like
yeah,
he's the focal point on that offense. He can literally find space anywhere he wants. He doesn't have the greatest hands, but he has phenomenal speed.
he does.
Which I mean, I
It
don't know,
doesn't look
man.
like he's slowing down either.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
For Brewskis.
So I like Tyreek a lot. I really do. But in all honesty, I mean, I might be on the same train as you. I might get some hate for that, but I would actually take Amon Ra over Tyreek.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the reason why is, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that, especially if you are in a PPR league, which is what we were in. If you're in a PPR league, he was very, very, very highly targeted last year. I think he had he definitely had obviously over 100 receptions, but he was targeted a lot.
You
He
talking
might
about
not.
Tyreek, right?
No, Amon Ra.
I'm all right.
Yeah, so Amon Ra, he was targeted a lot last year. I wish that I had pulled up the old statistics on it.
The one thing that I don't really like about St. Brown is that I believe that what's his name, Jamison Williams.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually going to start off the year this year with no suspensions and no injuries. Because I think
Yeah,
last year he started the season suspended for 6 games. The year before that, he was injured for a lot of it. So this is his first year, his junior year, where he's going to be fresh and they're going to have the receivers ready to go.
that's true. But wouldn't you want to use that same logic for Miami?
Yeah, but
Because Jalen Waddle just got paid, so
that's true.
they're gonna want
But
to utilize him a lot.
we've also seen what a healthy Miami offense, what a healthy I can't even talk. Jesus, a healthy Miami offense looks like, and Tyreek Hill is getting his looks.
So is Amon Ra. You know what's kind of crazy though about that is that there are so many parallels with that Lions offense and with that Dolphins offense.
Uh huh.
Because you got Tyreek, who's the established guy, Amon Ra, who's the established guy. Then you got Jalen Waddle, who's the new guy. You got Jamison Williams, who's the new guy. And then those running backs, you got Mostert, and then you got Achane. But then on the other side, you got Gibbs and Montgomery.
Yeah,
And then
that's
you
pretty
got
awesome.
Jared Goff and Tua, who I think actually they're very similar.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think they're great, but I think they definitely will put up some yards and some points. So, but yeah. So I know we got a little bit off topic on that, but I would definitely say that the first. I would say that the first 3, maybe 4 picks should be most likely filling out those starting spots for running back and wide receiver. And to Jose's point, definitely running back for sure, because there's not going to be a whole lot because if you look at it, well, the top 10 doesn't look too bad on this fantasy football cheat sheet. The top 10 doesn't look too terrible, but what kind of ends up hurting you is that, like, especially with running backs, they just there's plenty of good ones, but there's not a whole lot of great ones anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because they all start getting older and stuff. And even with wide receivers, I mean, like it's just the first 2 rounds are going to have a whole lot of talent, but then after that, it's going to be like you just gotta got to make sure that you make the right picks. Obviously, that's the whole point of fantasy football, making the right picks. But at the end of the day, there are certain things that you do need to. I don't want to necessarily say abide by because, I mean, everybody plays fantasy football a little bit differently. But, oops. Laptop's still almost about to die, so I got to plug it in. There we go.
Brewskis.
Brewskis, indeed. But you just got to, if you want any chance of making some noise and enjoying your time in fantasy and not being at the very bottom of the barrel, then I would definitely take some of these thoughts, not necessarily as gospel, but I would think real hard on them. So, Jose, where are you drafting a kicker?
Honestly, dude,
Last.
I rarely even draft kickers. Like I usually just draft and draft and draft, and then like I'll pick up a kicker off the waiver wire.
Well, that's not a bad idea.
I do that. Just kind of some inside scoop on me. I do the same with defenses. Like I usually don't draft defenses. What I do is, obviously I have open slot for my defense, and from week to week, I just look at the whoever's available, and I look at their shittiest team that they're playing for the week, and then I just pick them, and that's kind of worked out for me, honestly.
Interesting. That's an interesting way to go about it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since there are some seasons where, like I think last year the Bills were doing really good for Gainfort.
Yeah,
That
no,
defense.
I think he had a different. Was it Was it the Bills?
I thought it was the Bills. Either that or that was 2 years ago. That might have
Yeah.
been 2 years ago that they were consistently getting him like
Oh
15
no,
to 20 points.
the Cowboys were having a crazy defensive fantasy year last year.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
And what's nuts about that? So that's why, man, I wouldn't say I like to draft defenses early, but I like to draft a very, very good defense. If there's a very, very good defense around and I've already filled in a lot of my holes, like if I've already filled in my starting wide receivers, starting running backs, got a couple of flex options and stuff. If I'm feeling really
Flex Caesar.
flex Caesar. if I'm feeling frisky and froggy, then if there is a very elite defense available, I might start the run just to be a little cheeky. I might just go ahead and start the run. I think that last year during our draft, I want to say that I started a run on either tight ends or quarterbacks. I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
I can't remember, but it's a lot of fun. And also, be very wary of whenever a run starts happening because those can be a little scary at times. You know what I'm saying?
I would say whenever the quarterbacks start to go, I would say I wouldn't rush because I'd feel very comfortable with taking Jared Goff to even Brock Purdy. I'd feel very comfortable taking them like in the middle to later rounds because nobody's gonna pick them up early. So you can let the high flyers go off and continue to
that's true.
solidify your bench, and then you can get these top 5 fantasy quarterbacks literally like in the later rounds, while these other guys are losing out on premier players.
Yeah, Dak Prescott ended up being one of the premier players, and I actually in one of my other leagues, I drafted him second to last.
Ripperooskies.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that he lasted that long, but because I think I'd already picked up Joe Burrow. He was my fantasy quarterback, and then whenever he went down, I started using Dak and paid dividends. It got me into the playoffs.
Right.
So it was really cool. So we've already talked about defense, special teams. We already talked about kickers. What? So, I can't. Man, I can't. I blanked on what I was going to ask you.
Ripperooskies.
I was going to ask you something real juicy about the later rounds.
Oh, and I guess a piece of advice I can give to is like, it doesn't really matter where you draft. Like you can literally win at any position that you draft. Just because you have the number 1 pick doesn't mean you're gonna win, or it doesn't give anybody an upper hand.
Correct.
You can pick last and win. You can pick in the middle and win. You can pick anywhere and win. You just got to be
Literally.
consistent. You just gotta. I was gonna say stay consistent, but not even. You just gotta like just keep up to date with all the football news. Because one person is an injury away from being RB1 or receiver one,
Yep.
and they're on the waiver wire,
That's a
and
great point.
someone might not even know about them, but since you watched the game, you have the upper hand, so you can pick them up off the waiver wire or pay X amount of dollars on the budget one. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. One of the biggest things is making sure that you are definitely keeping up with training camp and just what the matchups, the different matchups. Because honestly, I would say 90% of fantasy is all based off of matchups.
Mm-hmm.
And also, another good piece of advice I would say would be whenever you are drafting, make sure that you are checking out when the bye weeks are for teams, because you don't. What I think that last year we had, was it you that had everybody that was on a bye
It
for
might
one
have
week?
been. I
Because
think I
I
had like
remember you had like
five
four
or
or
six
five.
people.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was something crazy.
yeah. You don't want to do that. Part of the reason why you don't want to do that is because then you're either gonna face a loss or you're gonna have to strategically drop potential like premier players, stuff like it puts you in a really sticky situation. So it's always a good idea to basically keep an eye out for when the bye weeks are for the different teams. That way that way you don't have to flip your whole team or suffer the consequences of possibly losing because of the fact that you don't have any of your premier players at that point.
Mm-hmm. Very
Um
true.
Man, I felt like I had one more, and I couldn't. Oh yeah. Also, this goes for literally anybody that's playing fantasy football at all. It kind of goes along with the keeping up with everything. This is going to be the last thing I say on this whole topic. Jose, do you have anything before I mention my last thing?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. Set your damn lineup. There you go.
Ripperoski's.
Seriously though, set your lineup. Oh my god. That's like, I would say that is my biggest pet peeve in fantasy football.
Yeah, that is true.
You shouldn't have to be reminded to set your lineup either.
You
That's
shouldn't even
okay.
be playing fantasy football if you don't set up your lineup.
Exactly.
Honestly.
Exactly. But yes, so please make sure you set your damn lineup. Okay? That might be in the thumbnail. Set your damn lineup. You know?
I agree.
All right. So with all that being said, please check out all of our stuff. Hey, I like that hoodie you're wearing.
I found it in the garbage can the other
Yeah.
day.
Thrift store. Oh yeah, check out this hoodie. If you want some fire merch, make sure you check out firstroundbuy.com. We have links to the merch site, YouTube, Spotify, all that good stuff. Fantasy football is around the corner. Football season's around the corner, so we're going to be pretty active. Hopefully, that's what we're planning on doing. We've been really good about it. So, if you like what you see, make sure you drop a like, comment down below, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for post notifications so you know anytime we post videos. If you are a big fantasy football fan, if you're a football fan, if you're a college football fan, NFL football fan, any kind of football fan, join this community, talk to us, let us know if our opinions are dog shit or if they're the greatest things ever. Tell Jose that, his opinion on OBJ is terrible. Just kidding. Ripperoski's indeed. With all that being said, unless Jose has something else, we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Peace.